So this chord is exceptionally useful in a variety of ways when it comes to writing harmonically advanced music like jazz fusion. Just take a listen to this. So the chord itself is already awesome. I mean, just listen to it. But it becomes even better when we treat it as an upper structure. And an upper structure is just a chord which has a different bass note, and the chord is used then to supply some specific set of extensions against that lower bass note. So typically triads are used as upper structures, but you can use seventh chords. In fact, you can use any chord type on top, and you just change the bass note and you get some new composite chord. Like for instance, if we take an E minor and I put E in the bass, of course, we get E minor. But if I change the bass note, right? Now, certain bass notes are going to cause an inversion of the upper chord, meaning if I put G below this, I just get E minor over G or E minor over B. But a lot of the other ones will produce all sorts of other interesting effects. Some are better than others. So in this case, there's 4 great options for bass notes, and all of them were used in that example track, which we'll take a look at the end of the video. But first, in turn, we'll take a look at each option and break it down so we understand what it is and how it works, and then we'll see them kind of used all together. Actually, there are 2 other options too that I didn't use in the track, so see if you can figure those out as we go through the video. I'll talk about it a bit at the end. So first up, we've got the most obvious possibility where the root of the upper structure, C in this case, is also the bass note. So let's take a listen to it in an actual progression. Key of E major surrounded by diatonic chords. We've got here I've got the upper structure placed on the flat 6 of the key. We're in E, so the flat 6 degree would be C. And this is a very common, possibly the best place to put it in a major key. In a minor key, you'd put it on the natural 7, although there are other options too that you should explore, but all the examples in this video, I'm going to be putting it on the flat 6 degree of a major key. And in this case, because the bass note is the same as the root of the upper structure, the chord is a flat 6 chord. Flat 6 major 7 in the key of E, which would be C major 7 sharp 11. And as is the case with any time you use a flat 6 chord, flat 6 major chord in a major key, there's no specific way that you really need to deal with it. It can kind of be inserted anywhere at any time, and it can resolve or not in many different ways, although it's not wrong to say that it's common for the C to become a B in some way. That might be something you want to watch for, but it doesn't have to, of course. And especially in fusion, sometimes going against the grain is what's hip. Now you can explore this progression with exact voicings, as well as all the other progressions in this video on Neon Chords. There's a link in the description. It's free. Check it out. Here we're thinking of the upper structure as stemming from the flat 7 of some bass note, meaning C in this case, because we're in the key of E. C is the flat 7 of what? Of D. So we get D13. Now, since this is a dominant chord, of course, we can resolve it in many different ways. We can treat it as a backdoor resolution into E. We could treat it like a tritone sub going into C sharp. We can treat it to go to like it's a 5 chord, either to do a key change or to a modal chord in the key, G. We can lots of different options. So let's do a simple progression with it where, again, we surround it with diatonic chords. we'll stick in the key of E, and we'll use it as a tritone sub in this case. So we're on 4, down to 1. Now we have the chord in question, flat 7 dominant, tritone sub into the 6 chord. Try playing that progression, but resolving the D13 in as many different ways as you can and see what the effects are. It's pretty cool. Here we're thinking of the upper structure as being the flat 3 of some bass note. So again, since we have it on C, then of course the bass must be A. And we get A minor, 6, add 9. Who doesn't love the chord? And in our key, that's the 4 minor, you know, everybody's darling chord, 4 minor. So let's use that in a progression. In this case, we're using the special chord as the first chord in the progression, which might be unorthodox, but whatever, you can do whatever you want. And it moves from 4 minor directly into 1, but in first inversion, down to a 2 chord, and then up to the note which was just 1 in first inversion, but now it's actually 3, and we're back again. This chord is super dramatic and is always a good choice when you have a point of like high tension, high stress, like tragedy, you know, I mean, just when you hear it coming against the E, for instance, in this case, let's say, into, you feel like, oh God. As for what to do after it, I mean, there's a lot of options. I think resolving to 1 is the common thing, but going to 5, but you can go really anywhere. I think that 4 minor is pretty forgiving in how you want to treat it, so experiment. Now this is one of the most common and beautiful altered dominant chords in jazz and is typically used to resolve down a fifth to a minor type, which is what we're going to do in our progression. But to build it, we're thinking of the upper structure as stemming from the 3 of some bass note, which of course makes it G sharp in this case, which does make this a B sharp, by the way, just to say. So this would be like 3 dominant in the key of E major, right? We're sticking to the key of E major. So this would be like a 3 altered dominant, or AKA 5 of 6. See my other video on altered dominants if you want more of that stuff. So a simple progression would be we've got 1 down to the chord in question, G sharp, 7 sharp, 5 sharp 9, into the resolution of C sharp minor 9, walking up in the bass, B add 9, first inversion, back up to the E again. Like I said, this is resolving typically down a fifth right now, but we can go up to the 4, we can go down to the 2, we can go down to the flat 3 as if it was a tritone sub. We can go to the relative parallel major, like that. If you dig this kind of stuff, then consider becoming a channel member. I post all kinds of videos there about harmony and analysis and composition and ear training and music production all the time that are much sort of longer and more informal than normal YouTube videos. So it really supports me, and I appreciate your consideration on that, so thank you so much. Okay, now that we've got a grasp of those 4 options, we can take a look back at the example track that I played at the beginning, because I use all 4 possibilities in one big chord progression, which is honestly kind of stupid, maybe overkill, but it sounds cool, and we can take a look at that together and kind of break down what's going on here. Okay, a quick listen. So like all the progressions in this video, this is in the key of E, which means that the upper structure is placed on C, because that's the flat 6 of the key, right? That's where we put it. The first chord is a 1 chord, which drops into a flat 7 dominant, because that's one of the ones we looked at, right? Where the upper structure is looked at as being on the flat 7 of some bass note. We would then expect this to resolve in some typical way, but it doesn't because jazz fusion, and it goes to B flat minor 11, which then drops a half step into the next of our upper structure chords, which is when we have the A in the bass, treating this as a flat 3, and we get A minor 6/9, 4 minor in this key. That resolves into a 1 chord. Then we have another upper structure chord. Now we have the C in the bass, which is, we looked at this too. This is where we have the same note as the upper structure, but in the bass, making it a flat 6, major 7 sharp 11, or major 7 flat 5, depending on how you want to look at that. This then goes back to A in the bass, but now instead of minor, we have the diatonic major 9 version, and this drops a half step into the last upper structure chord, in which case G sharp is in the bass, giving us G sharp altered dominant, sharp 5, sharp 9, which, as I discussed earlier, should be targeting, or we would think it would target, C sharp minor 9 or something, but instead it just loops back up to the top of the progression again, sort of diffusing the tension and resetting the whole thing. So basically I'm just like alternating some chord, upper structure thing, some chord, upper structure thing. Now, like, it gets old pretty quick because we're hearing this exact voicing over and over again, but I wanted to do it for demonstration purposes. However, this could have turned out many different ways, and I encourage you to try and do your own version of it. That is, write a progression which uses at least 2 of these versions. If you can get all 4 in there of these options for the upper structure chord, that's a good idea, because it's going to stretch your mind to say, how do we get it? What kind of voice leading is required? What kind of bass motion is required? And you need to use the stuff, right? Yeah, it's cool to tell you what it is, but you got to use it in your own progressions as soon as you can if you really want to internalize it. At the beginning of the video, I mentioned that there are actually 2 other options for bass notes besides the 4 that I've shown you here that are maybe not as common, but they're still useful. Can you think of what they are? Like, what else could go under this? The first option would be F sharp, in which case we're thinking of the upper structure as being placed on the sharp 4 of this chord, of this bass note. And we get what Chordwatch thinks is C major 7 flat 5 over F sharp. I would call it F sharp 7 sus 4 flat 9, or like Spanish dominant, as people might call it. And then you might hear this resolve like this in some way. The other option is very similar, where we put a B underneath, in which case we're thinking of this as the flat 9 or flat 2 of some bass note, which would be B, and it gives us basically the same chord. It's a B7 sus 4 flat 9. Ignore the name here. And it too, you might hear go, to resolve and then down to the E minor, or in our case, maybe E major, right? So those are the 2 other options for bass notes that you can put under there. I hope you dig this stuff as much as I do. Remember to check out the Neon Chords link in the description if you want to explore these progressions. Consider becoming a channel member, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Talk to you soon. Bye.